Now let's turn to violent crime. I want to play a short soundbite of what you said recently. Go.
The chaos and violence on our streets and the assault on law enforcement are really and truly an attack against all peaceful citizens. If I'm elected president, this chaos and violence will end, and it will end very, very quickly.
So, how? You have in Chicago a problem. Did you know that murders in Chicago are up 50% this year from last year?
I know it. I know it very well.
And they can't solve it. They can't solve it. State of Illinois, City of Chicago can't do it.
Well, you know why they can't solve it? Because I don't think they have the right people in charge.
So, all right. So specifically, how do you do it? How do you do it?
I know police in Chicago. If they were given the authority to do it, they would get it done.
How?
You have unbelievable. How? By being very much tougher than they are right now.
Nice shot!
Yeah.
Go! Cut the shit! Let's keep it moving. Come on, this is what we got. Kick that motherfucker. Here, look. That one right here. Look at pictures. It's copper in there. Don't fucking do that.
They're right now not tough. I mean, I could tell you this very long and quite boring story, but when I was in Chicago, I got to meet a couple of very top police. I said, how do you stop this? How do you stop this? If you were put in charge to a specific person, do you think you could stop it? He said, Mr. Trump, I'd be able to stop it in 1 week. And I believed him 100%.
How? Did he tell you how he would be able to stop it in 1 week?
He wants to use tough police tactics.
Would you have a warrant to arrest people?
Killed.
Can't beat them up. You have to have a warrant to arrest them. You have to have...
All I know is this. I went to a top police officer in Chicago who is not the police chief, and I could see by the way he was dealing with his people, he was a rough, tough guy. They respected him greatly. I said, how do you think you do it? He said, Mr. Trump, within 1 week, we could stop much of this.
But he didn't tell you exactly precisely how, because that's
No, and I didn't ask him because I'm not the mayor of Chicago. But I tell you what, I sent his name in and I said, you probably should hire this guy because you have, you know the expression, you have nothing to lose? Look at what's going on in Chicago. It's horrible. This guy felt totally confident that he could stop it in a very short period of time.
So
it's a little bit like we could win the war a lot quicker if we'd let our generals do the job properly. This was a man
But you have to have a strategy, though. What I'm trying to get is you have to have a strategy.
I'm sure he's got a strategy.
Okay, but you're going to be, if you're president, you're going to have your strategy. Look.
The police, I'm sure, here are heavy-handed.
I can hear people yelling. What's happening?
Yeah. They're trying to get these people out of this car here, sweetie. And I don't know why, but it's looking kind of weird. Oh, God. Oh, he's just an old man.
Let it go. Let it go. Let it go.
What the? Oh, God, you're going to get him.
Let it go. Let it go. Let it go.
What the?
So let's just take a very micro issue. Attacks on police, all right? So they're rising because they're being, police officers in some places being demonized, and now unstable people,
people are being coddled.
Okay.
People
all right.
are being
So
coddled.
you're president. How are you going to stop attacks on police in the present climate?
Well, first of all, we need somebody that's going to be a cheerleader for the police to.
My hair. She's scratching me. She's punching me in my face. I have everything on tape.
Video evidence tonight after a Cardinals cheerleader is arrested for assault. It's from a police officer's perspective during the moment he says he realized the truth about a drunken fight. ABC 15's Adam Slinger here to walk us through what happened. And Adam, this cheerleader called 911 with one story, and then officers discover something completely different.
She originally said that her boyfriend attacked her, but as soon as the boyfriend came out, he says he never touched her and had the proof right in his hand.
Please get him out. Please get him out. Please get him out.
It's the only time you'll really see the Arizona Cardinals cheerleader on camera.
74, I have the female out.
At this point on July 20th, she's claiming to be the victim of domestic abuse.
Does he have any weapons in there?
29-year-old Megan Welter made the 911 call. Now, in addition to being a Cardinals cheerleader, Steve, she's also in the U.S. Army Reserve. She's an Iraq War vet, and she's now facing charges of assault, criminal damaging, and disorderly conduct.
Yeah, her story's gone nationwide, and we did finally hear from the Cardinals tonight, by the way. All they're saying, no comment at this point. Anna,
not much of an answer.
Yeah.
Something.
Thank you, Adam.
Extent. Right now, I just left the Akron police and some other people, and they are terrific people, and they feel like they're being left behind by our leadership. They're not being respected by our leadership, and they literally, they don't have spirit. They lose their spirit. Every time something happens, it's the police's fault. Look,
your tone is pro-police.
You have to have.
Well, how do you stop the bad guys from attacking them?
By giving them back your spirit and by allowing them to go and counterattack. Allowing them to go and counterattack.
An unarmed, handcuffed, and inebriated woman found herself at the mercy of a violent police officer who abandoned procedure in Shreveport, Louisiana in 2008. Angela Garbarino was accosted by Officer Wiley Willis after being arrested for public intoxication. While in the booking room of the police station, Garbarino, intent on making a phone call, attempted to leave the room before being handcuffed and sat down in a nearby chair. Moments later, Willis flips off the security camera recording the events taking place in the room. When the recording continues, Garbarino is seen lying in a pool of her own blood, her eyes black and swollen, and unable to move or speak. Willis sits above her, refusing to administer any kind of medical attention, implicating him in the attack. Other officers finally bring in a stretcher, and Garbarino is taken to a hospital. While Willis was fired from his position, he was eventually reinstated a year later after settling the matter with Garbarino out of court. He was never legally charged with any wrongdoing. As Seattle resident Christopher Harris walked by a movie theater in 2009, he was suddenly rushed and thrown into a wall by Sheriff's Deputy Matthew Paul with such tremendous force it left the 29-year-old man in a severe coma. Paul had mistaken Harris for a robbery suspect. Despite the life-altering injuries Harris sustained, Paul was not charged with any misconduct, and the police department provided a statement saying that he had done nothing wrong. Unsurprisingly, Paul had a history of thoughtless attacks in both police training sessions and in regard to civilian arrests. Months earlier, a man named Jeff Gold provided photographic evidence of injuries he sustained after being taken down by Paul for obstructing an officer. Though Gold was not formally charged with any crime, Paul stayed with the police department after the Christopher Harris incident. About 6 years later, the man eventually passed away due to the catastrophic brain injury.
Martino from Epsom. Thank you. You don't need this. You really don't. I was a colonel. I'm a retired colonel in the Marine Corps. I saw a sign back there that said, we want more Mayberry and less Fallujah. And I spent a year in Fallujah. And you know what? When I first got there, I didn't have armored Humvees, and I traveled over 10,000 miles over there. And sometimes you got to deal with and go with what you have. And so that's part of the job, for one. The second thing is, when I was in Iraq, I was in charge, I was the Ministry of Defense Coordinator. My job was to man, train, and equip the Iraqi army in Al-Anbar, Najaf, Karbala, and northern Babil provinces. And I can tell you right now, well, somebody had the great idea to get rid of the Iraqi army, so when we rebuilt it, we did everything we could to make it as strong as possible. And I'll tell you right now, Homeland Security would kick their butts in a week. What's happening here is we're building a domestic military because it's unlawful or unconstitutional to use American troops on American soil. So what we're doing is we're building a military. My best friend, who's a SWAT officer in Nashua, who came to Iraq with me to train the Iraqi police, sent me an email with a picture of him in the media on the streets of Watertown, Mass, wearing the exact same combat gear that we had in Iraq, only it was a different color. And the way we do things in the military is called task organization. You take a command and then you attach units to it in order to accomplish the mission. What's happening is Homeland Security is pre-staging gear, equipment, consistent. What they're trying to do is use standardized vehicles, standardized equipment. I saw a picture in the Boston Globe during the marathon bombing where there was a state police officer, actually there were two officers, they both had identical helmets, flak jackets, weapons, everything I wore in Iraq, only it was all blue. The officer on one side had a big patch on his back that said Massachusetts State Police. Another officer next to him, his patch said Boston Police. And so what we're doing here, and let's not kid about it, we're building a domestic army and we're shrinking the military because the government is afraid of its own citizens. The last time more than 10 terrorists were in the same place at one time was September 11th, and all these vehicles in the world wouldn't have prevented it, nor would it have helped anybody. So I don't know where we're going to use this many vehicles and this many troops. Concord is just one little cog in the wheel. We're building an army over here, and I can't believe that people aren't seeing it. Is everybody blind? That's all. I'll take it.
Please, I know it's a passionate issue, but if you please, for the first time, I'm asking you not to boo or clap one way or the other.
I'll take any questions.
Any questions?
My wife always told my kids there's always free cheese in the mousetrap.
This national feeling is good.
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
But it won't count for much, and it won't last unless it's grounded in thoughtfulness and knowledge.
You got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said.
It's time to realize, I think, that we need God more than he needs us.
I don't bring God into that picture.
Use of force is always and only a last resort.
I would bomb the shit out of them by allowing them to go and counterattack.